Okay, so this one is on Pasuk 35 in chapter 12. And it's talking about the Jewish people going to the Egyptians and asking to borrow from their silver and gold vessels and so on, right? And it says that the Jewish people, the children of Israel, did it in accordance with the word of Moshe. They borrowed from the Egyptians silver vessels and gold vessels and garments. So he says early on, all the way back in chapter 11, Hashem already told Moshe, please speak in the ears of the people and let each man request from his fellow and each woman request from her friend silver vessels and gold vessels and so on. Right? So Hashem already conveyed to Moshe that he wants the Jewish people to ask the Egyptians for these things. Moshe has already told it to them. So we already would have known right now if we just said, and the Jews borrowed the gold and silver and stuff from Egyptians, that they did it because Moshe told them to do it. So the Or HaChaim's obvious question is, why does the Torah need redundantly tell us again that the Jews did everything according to what Moshe told them to do? Obviously, we would have deduced this. Right? So why redundant information? So it says it wants to stress out that that's the reason why they did it. They did it because the prophet, the Moshe Rabbeinu, told them to do it, not because they wanted a financial gain. Because normally speaking, who wouldn't want some extra silver and gold? Somebody told you, I don't know, President Trump right now told you, go to Federal Reserve, you have my personal permission, open up the vault, and take as much as you can into your bag. It's an appreciation to you on behalf of the United States for the great service he did to this country. You would be like, sure, no problem, and get the biggest bag I got, and I'll go. I'll walk if I have to. So he says, right here, is stressing the idea that the only reason they went to do it is because the Navi, the prophet, told them that they have to do it, not because they were obsessed with getting gold and silver. And he says there's a very important halachic idea here, right, as explained by Rambam. Right, Rambam teaches in Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah a very important law. It says that if somebody has already been established and certified as a kosher prophet, and that kosher established prophet tells the Jewish people in the name of Hashem to temporary violate a single mitzvah of the Torah, like, for example, Eliyahu Navi doing the sacrifice on Har Carmel in Haifa, even though normally speaking, since the moment that Beis HaMikdash was erected in Yerushalayim, you're not allowed to do karbanos outside of that area, right? But because Eliyahu Hanavi is a kosher certified prophet, and he says this is an exception as a one-time for special purpose, we're going to do karbanos right now on Har Carmel, then, okay, it's a certified kosher prophet. It's a temporary one-time exception that he says needs to happen. Then we have to follow the words of the prophet and do it. The only thing that even the certified prophet couldn't do it, right? Couldn't say, let's go and temporarily one time worship an idol, right? In that case, no matter how certified he is immediately losing his license, his prophetic license. He's immediately being considered a false prophet and being executed for it, right? So even a prophet cannot tell you to go worship idols, and no prophet can ever cancel a mitzvah permanently, right? So a prophet has a mandate as a one-time temporary measure to suspend a certain mitzvah for special circumstances if it's not avodah zarah, one time, not cancel a mitzvah period, right? A prophet can tell you, people of, village X, go and eat, pork because that's, they need it to survive or whatever, he can temporarily suspend it. He cannot cancel kashrus permanently, right? As a special measure, one time for special reason, in the name of Hashem, if it's a kosher private, he can do it. So what does that have to do with our parsha? He says like this: we have a simple halacha that it's completely improper, it's forbidden to deceive a non-Jew or to steal his money. Now, the Jewish people go to Egyptians and they say, can I borrow your objects, A, B, C? They know full well they will not be returning these objects. They know they're going to take it, and then they're going to leave Egypt and never go back. So they say we're going to borrow, but in reality, they basically taking it permanently. And we're not allowed to deceive other people, and we're not allowed to steal their property. Right? Jews and non-Jews alike. We cannot be dishonest with non-Jews, just like we cannot be dishonest with other Jews. So the Jews would say here, well, I'm going to be lying and stealing. I can't do that. That's, that's halakhically inappropriate. You open Shulchan Aruch and Choshen Mishpat, and, there's a number of places where it tells you you're not allowed to do it, so I can't do it. But so it says this is why it's stressing out that they did it in accordance to the words of Moshe. Why? Because Moshe is a certified prophet, and a certified prophet can give a suspension, a temporary command to violate a certain law if Hashem told them to do so. Right? He's not saying, okay, from now on you can just lie to Goyim all you want, you can steal all their property all you want, it's all fine. No, he says this one time I'm giving you a special instruction to do it, and that's within the prerogative of the prophet to do. And if the prophet does that, it becomes a commandment for you. You have to do it, right? So that's why he's stressing out that the Jews did it only because Moshe told them to do it, right? Because they had special halakhic dispensation to lie and take this. I must mention before I clock out that there's another place where Or HaChaim explains that there's another explanation for why they were justified to do it. And the other explanation is that the Jewish people were enslaved for a long time and were never paid for their services. And so Egyptians owed them for their regular time. And we know that they all worked about 16, 18 work days, right? So they owed them for double time, and they owed them for triple time, and they owed them for all the holidays, extra pay, all the Shabbos, and so on and so forth. So over the course of decades of the Jewish people were enslaved, according to the standard labor laws. Like I used to work for a printing company once here in Atlanta, right? And we had a union, and there were very direct, strict rules, right? Like your normal 8 hours is your straight pay. If it's 8 to 12 hours, it's you get I think it was a time and a half, a double pay. And if you get a permission from management because they're desperate and they need you to, and you work from 12 to 16, then it's like a triple pay. And if it's on a holiday, it's a triple pay, or on a weekend, it's a double, a triple, whatever. There's a whole book of rules. And according to the rules, there was a scale. This is your base salary. This is your overtime salary. This is your double time salary. This is your triple time salary. It was to the point that people were actually fighting to work on weekends. And the most precious thing was if you get to work on a weekend on a holiday, because then you get a triple, quadruple, insane pay, on a guy who's making, and this was back in, 1997 or something, right? And if let's say your salary was $20 an hour, and you get a quadruple pay or something, and you're suddenly getting paid $80 an hour in 1997, that's a lot of money. So people were fighting to do it. So in another place, he explains, because there was decades, if not, a century of enslaved labor that they never got compensated for. They used to work 16, 18 hours a day. There was a lot of overtime and double time and triple time and quadruple time that they owed them, and straight up base pay. So they were also justified to take the payment anyway, right? But here he says there was a completely different justification in addition to that, that a prophet is allowed to tell you to suspend the mitzvah temporarily as a one-time event. And Moshe Rabbeinu here got a direct order from Hashem to tell the Jewish people to take it. So that was another justification why they were allowed to say we want to borrow, even though they knew it wasn't borrowing, it was taking it permanently, they never bringing it back. And why they were allowed to basically lie, deceive them, and to quote unquote steal from them. Because the laws of not lying and not deceiving is a halacha coming from Hashem. And Hashem, if he feels like it, can tell the prophet to temporarily suspend those laws. And this is why it's stressing out here that the Jews did it because it was a direct order from a prophet, not because of some sort of wish for personal gain.